Yeah, when I got this from, my God, what is this?
Okay. All right.
I'll look through one of the minis.
When I went to pay your gas,
Okay.
he had gotten.
Do you want me to forward you what she sent me?
What did you say it was called?
It says, welcome to Crisis Track Force
Sorry, let me see what it's, okay.
from Jamie.
I did.
Get out of that.
Weird like that. Let me
Okay.
take it now.
Mrs. Dillon, are you ready? Okay.
What time are we?
That's usually updated.
It does it every single week.
You have to do it on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Mine hasn't, I haven't opened mine in years.
No, I don't open it except for meetings. What time is it? Oh, 6:02.
It works. And then it
And my mouse.
downloads the update.
Good. I'm going to call the Forster Town Council meeting for September 12th to order. If everyone would please stand to pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I do have, I need to find my agenda. I have a couple of announcements. Mr. Paolino is excused. He's under the weather. I'm always complaining about the state, but I wanted to let people know they came door knocking that the bridge is going to be out. I should say I shouldn't say
Yeah.
my covered bridge,
Yeah.
but my covered bridge, my covered bridge. And they're giving out the detour paper and everything, and they went door knocking. I asked them what houses were they going to, and they were going to all the ones that are involved with the detour. So kudos to them for doing that. I did tell them Weatherby existed. They didn't know that.
Is that something that you could put,
I think Mrs. Dillon did.
it's on.
Yeah.
Because there, well, I know that when they had, at the election, when they, in primary, when they had the construction of the painting or whatever they were doing at the intersection of 6th and
Yeah.
94, and you couldn't go through for a period.
Yeah.
And some people were, calling and asking, well, I don't know how to get there.
When I
Well,
got there-
if they follow this, they will know.
No, when I got there, they let us go on the opposite side of the road.
Right.
At some point.
When
kinda just
when I had
thought,
left, they had. The other thing I wanted to announce, which is nice news, Moosup Valley Fire Station received a grant for $428,000 to purchase a new truck. And they do not need any matching funds from the town. They have enough funds to match, to make that match. So, Chief Kniff had told me that the other night. I wanted to make that announcement. I think that's great. That is really, really good.
Is that the champion?
He didn't say. And I didn't ask. He just said
That's when they-
some grant. Mr. Savazio. Thank you.
Ron Sebastian, 142.
It's not on yet, Ron.
Oh, there you go.
Ron Sebastian, 142A Old Plainfield Pike. These ordinances or zoning changes you're going to do today, we work slow in this town. It was going to be done 25 years ago by Brad Gorham. Different reasons we work slow. The the police station, 8 or 12 years. So there's a saying, sometimes you do something even if it's wrong. So my comments here, without knowing what I'm talking about, because I'm not privy and I haven't gone to the police station building committees. If you're building a police station without a basement to save money, all right, you're doing the wrong thing. Okay. The meetings I did attend, we unnecessarily, a person in this community unnecessarily drove that cost up to $9 million, maybe a $4 or $5 million extra. We're now down to a $4 million building, and to not buy 6 feet of concrete to double the space of whatever you're building is the wrong thing to do. So, if you need to go back to the taxpayers, that's what needs to be done. If not, looking at the new townhouse with the windows rotting, looking at different buildings with the sills rotting, people writing themselves nice things of what a good job they're doing on websites while they add hundreds of thousands of dollars to cost to the field. They lose the land on Route 6 and 94, the most valuable piece of commercial real estate we have. And yet this council doesn't have the guts, the courage to try and do a cost benefit analysis and say, the person who writes themselves nice letters, what a good job they're doing, cost the towns thousands and millions of dollars, just added $17,000 to the upstairs. All right. So I'm going to say again, if you build a police station without a basement, it's the worst possible thing you can do. And this will be the worst building you've ever built that to fit the needs of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Savazio. Moving on. Consent agenda.
I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Discussion? One second. Mrs. Ryder, Mrs. Ryder. Well, don't raise your hands.
I think if you, for older people, there should be a dispensation, you know, where.
You're not old though.
No, that's true. I know. I'm just wondering what the $653,324 is.
Fiscal year 2025, number 3.
I know we paid Vinagro. I know we paid Vinagro for the road work. That was over $530,000 right there. Do you want
Okay,
me
is
to
that-
Analyze the other 100.
Was that something matching from the state?
We have to pay it and then we will get reimbursed from the state. That's the 2/3, 1/3 program from the
Okay.
DOT. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Ryder. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Moving on to public hearings. Ms. Downs has come up to tell us about that. The first one is all good, right? So I'm going to open up the public hearing for the animal ordinances, which there are 3.
And there's no voting on this.
There's no voting. This is the first public hearing, so we're just going to be listening and people can, the crowd can talk about it.
So here's my question though. Do I need, so on these,
If you just give us a
in
summary.
most cases, the summaries are correct and on these, they're fine. There are a few where we
Yes.
found the summary was way off base. but,
Okay, so we'll address that as we go along.
Okay. So section 8-217, application for initial issuance said recommendation to add provisions for waiver request made to planning board for land development project application. And it made the recommendation to make distinctions between, and I inserted my own Class A versus Class B projects requiring development plan and review and major land development. And just for clarification on that, Class A refers to breeders and Class B is to boarders. And the license fees are different for the two. That's, you've all seen and read the.
If we could just take each one and then see if anybody has any questions.
So should
Anyone have any questions on that ordinance?
No, I was wondering what any of these had to do with animals.
Yeah, it's about kennels.
It's about
Okay.
Yeah,
kennels.
the word, the kennel.
Because it does say chapter 8 animals, article 4 kennels, division 2
Yeah.
licenses.
Actually, it doesn't say kennels on the agenda. It's article
Oh.
4 kennels.
Yeah.
On
Sorry.
mine, it
My bad.
says,
Okay,
when I
It says it
printed,
on yours?
when I printed them
Oh, you
out.
printed that out.
yeah,
Yep.
I know, I gotta like,
Yeah, it's on your side.
It's hard to get used to.
or does it
Flexes at the
turn?
Bottom.
Yeah.
You can,
Okay, how's that now? Check,
Perfect.
testing. Gotcha. Okay, Section 8-221 is entitled fees. Again, this is pertaining to kennels. And this actually lists the initial issuance fees, licenses and so forth. And it said that a business license is required in addition to the fees for land development application. And if anyone wants me to read out what the fees are, because they were, I think, changed a little bit from previous, or it's no.
We had already
we-
discussed that
You
at a
did.
previous meeting, what the costs were. Remember all
Right, It
the,
was in Sugar Sync.
right?
Yes,
But we had a meeting previous to this to
Yes.
approve those licenses.
gotcha.
Thank you.
And then the third one is section 8-222 renewal. And this was just fixing the phrase town treasurer to finance director. And it also just mentioned adding the citing major land development as a possible review type, and that is in regard to borders, not breeders. So.
Does anyone have any questions on any of these three ordinances that were presented? Okay, I'm gonna, okay, Mrs. Rao, you'll need to come up front, state your name and address. Yep, come right up.
Yes, I wasn't here in the last meeting, but I want to say something here. A consent agenda. How many cars can be parked in a person's driveway? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
How many what?
cars.
Cars?
Cars.
This isn't part of the animal. We're talking about animals
Yes,
right now.
but
Eh, We haven't,
What I'm saying is, was that under this consent agenda, which the question I'm asking?
we're going to be talking about off-road parking or off-street parking in a little bit. So,
Private parking,
okay, so in a little bit,
okay.
you can answer.
To the private house lots.
Right,
Okay. yes.
okay? And when that happens, Mrs. Rao, I'll give you a wave and you can come on up, okay? All right, so here are my three. Anybody who wants to speak in opposition to these ordinances? Anyone that wants to speak in opposition? Anyone that wants to speak in opposition? Anyone who wants to speak in favor? Anyone who wants to speak in favor? Anyone who wants to speak in favor? Thank you. Moving on.
Yeah, good at that, Denise.
I say it in nicely.
Cushion.
So the next one is for the chapter 10 buildings and building regulations, which also includes chapter 12 and chapter 16. Chapter 16-31 through section 60, 16-60. We had voted to table that so that we
Oh.
were going to have a mutual
Joint
meeting
meeting.
between the council and the planning board.
We voted no on that.
We had voted to have a meeting, to have a mutual meeting to discuss that.
Right.
And I reached out to the planning chair and he has not responded to me
Okay.
yet.
So we're gonna
So,
table this.
We're
further?
tabling chapter, the manufactured
Chapter
homes.
16.
So
part.
we're just looking tonight at section 10-3 and chapter 12-31. So
Okay, I'm sorry,
10-3 is address identification.
Oh, the first one.
Yep, the
And
very
then-
first one, we're going to talk about that one and
And
then the
then-
second one.
And then 12,
Yep.
12-31 and the
Yep,
others too.
and then the
Okay.
other ones are tabled. We had voted on that
Right,
or discussed that last time.
yes.
So, okay, so
So.
10-3 identity.
Yeah, 10-3 is just basically including the description of the size and requirement for addresses on houses and other buildings in alignment with the Rhode Island State Building Code. And I can read it, but it's pretty self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
And-
Anytime, like, just for clarification, anytime there's a state law supersedes a town ordinance, state law, like, will overrule. and
Okay.
We'll have to, so.
It's not,
So.
There you
I was
go.
saying that, anytime state law is, overruling a town ordinance, then state law will apply, and therefore there's no need to have a discussion on it because it has to be in compliance with state law. So if that's the case with how big the numbers have to be on someone's house, then that's, or whatever they are.
Yeah, it wasn't superseding, it just didn't exist before.
Right, so-
So they just said, let's just use this one and put it.
So anytime state. law-
you're off
I'm
again,
just saying,
Mark.
so to move quicker is that, am I on?
Just
Let
push,
go.
It should
just
be
push the
blank.
button,
Push it and let go.
push
The
it.
button and it should be turned.
No,
No.
let
There
go.
you go.
All right,
Go.
so anytime, like, as we move through tonight, this state law is superseding any town, we don't need to have.
Yeah,
a
we have a whole bunch that are.
We
gonna
don't
be
need to
like
have a
that.
town
Good.
discussion on it because it's not gonna matter what we say because state
Right.
law is gonna.
It's just a matter
Control.
of housekeeping, so we're in
Right.
compliance.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we don't have to go through,
Well,
the-
you can cite that we're changing it to state law, but there's no need to have discussions on it because
Good.
it doesn't matter. We can't, that's our state reps and state senators need to change the law on that,
okay,
you know, and, you know, we can argue and talk all about it. It's not gonna matter because it's state law.
okay.
So that one that
Is
was just
state-
read is state law. The next one,
But you can't completely assume that on some of these
No, I'm
because
saying-
there's a
Right.
few
Well,
that,
I'm
that-
looking at
there's-
the next
yeah.
one that's approved by the House, but I don't see
Yes.
the Senate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
we
I
also
don't,
said the same
and I
thing.
don't wanna
Yes.
like interrupt you. I just wanna make sure if it's state
No, I
law, just,
understand.
just
Yeah.
tell us and then we don't have to have a big discussion.
Okay.
So I do have one question on this one.
Yep.
We know that there's been a problem with, there's a lot of zeros addresses out there, that empty lots, et cetera. Has the state come out with anything saying that we have to start numbering those?
I don't know the answer to that because the houses themselves should have
Right.
actual,
I know. in
like
some
my
towns-
phone, but excuse me, my
Even
electric
take
bill
it
says
when
zero,
talking about
zero
when it's
Biscuit
not-
Hill
yeah.
Road. But we're number 19 with the
Right.
post office. So I think if they're, yeah.
I
it's-
think you're zero until you put in a
And-
building permit
right.
application.
I know other towns.
Oh, no, we're stuck
cities
with
and
our
towns
zero on,
have
on our
yeah.
electric bill.
Their empty lots,
Yes.
their vacant lots are
Mhm.
numbered.
Yes,
We don't have that. We have a lot of zeros in town because
Yes.
they're vacant lots.
Right.
Um,
but I
It
think
doesn't get
as
changed.
Heidi said, though, I think once there's a building permit
Right,
pulled,
that's
there
when it
will be
goes,
a number.
right.
That's a whole
Okay.
separate thing. This week I.
Right,
helped
I was
people-
just curious as to
In
whether-
Gloucester, 19 comes after
Right.
20.
Right?
Right, yeah, there are some that are confusing like
Wonky.
that. Yes, yes, that's been an issue with the
EMS.
EMS thing.
Yeah,
So,
fire department.
yes, go ahead.
I'm just wait, just. She says I could.
I'm just assuming that the numbers that were being given by the fire companies go along with state law as far as size and all that kind of good
That's
stuff.
actually a separate thing.
Oh,
Yeah, that's in addition, if you look at the actual, but they just put it aside. It says that these are for, in regard to house numbers, like I have a 19 on my porch or whatever. But there's also, it doesn't exclude the ones, the blue fire department numbers. Those are a separate thing. And I think there's that, if I remember. You have,
Well, you
if you
have
have
one
one on your house, for example.
Right.
And it actually mentions that. Would you like me to read this?
Go right ahead.
Yeah, it's not that long. Okay. New and existing buildings shall be provided with approved address identification. The address identification shall be legible and placed in a position that is visible from the street or road fronting the property. Address identification characters shall contrast with their background. Address numbers shall be Arabic numbers or alphabetical numbers. Numbers shall not be spelled out. Each character shall be a minimum of 4 inches high with a minimum stroke width or minimum stroke of 0.5 inches. Where required by the fire code official, address identification shall be provided in additional approved locations to facilitate emergency response. I think that's where it says, that's the blue and white numbers.
Yes.
Where access is by means of a private road and the building address cannot be viewed from the public way, a monument, pole, or other approved sign or means shall be used to identify the structure. So if you're on a long driveway, you gotta have something out front with your number. You
No,
don't have to have it on your house too.
okay. Any other questions on that? No. Cool, okay. So then
we skipped
12-31. And this is businesses article license application renewal or transfer.
That's a Rhode Island general law one, if I recall.
Yes, it
It
is.
says by
Yeah.
H
By the
7940.
Yeah.
So that was all pretty straightforward. It's mainly Rhode Island general law. So.
Right.
Is that one general? law? Is it?
He
just a
did say
House bill
required,
passed?
well,
I'm wondering if it passed both chambers, because it just says required
Yeah,
by the
House.
House.
in Grant's little blurb. He said required based on amendments to Rhode Island General Law 45-23-32. Such amendments are found, yes,
So
only in
that-
the House
okay.
bill.
Mhm.
Yes,
So,
So that
I,
one's
I would
good.
say it is. I mean, he'd know better, but I think I would say it is because it's a House bill,
Mm.
but if it's been put into the general laws, RIGL, then it's a law.
Well, that was my
Yeah,
question because
yeah.
it doesn't say RIGL, it just said required
does.
house.
On planning, down here for it's now number 3.
Mm,
It does say, identified under Rhode
Okay.
Island general law.
all right.
right.
Okay,
And it just basically, just
didn't have
the
enough
main thing there was the
information.
difference between for licenses issued
Yeah.
to be whether, if they're liquor or cannabis license, they have to have a public hearing in front of town council. That's the
any questions on
the
that?
gist of that.
Okay, and the rest of them are tabled, so my 3 and 3. Anyone want to speak in opposition to these? Anyone want to speak in opposition? Anyone want to speak in opposition? Anyone want to speak in favor? Anyone want to speak in favor? Anyone want to speak in favor? Thank you. So now I will open up the first public hearing for chapter 24 planning. And again, this is our first hearing, so we will not be voting on it. And this one here is pretty straightforward. It updates and makes it
Consistent with the
consistent
charter.
with the charter. And I
Ex-
did print out the charter that,
Okay, because it doesn't, as written, does not. So I have the actual charter language
okay,
attached. Because what was sent to me from Grant does not match the charter.
well, I thought it
Language.
did what I have. So do
have
you
the one that
want to
begins-
read what is in the charter and I'll follow
Yes,
along
okay.
on here? Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Okie dokie. Section 9.02, membership, terms of office and vacancies. The planning board shall consist of 7 members appointed by the town council from the qualified electors of
Okay,
the
it
town.
doesn't.
It doesn't.
What?
The other one said
new
about
ordinance
residents.
Doesn't say that. It doesn't say appointed by the town council. This is the charter.
Oh, okay.
The ordinance that's
That's what
supposed
you got.
to,
Okay.
so that needs
Right.
to be clarified.
So-
That needs
Yeah.
to be corrected.
Do you want me
So
to read the
we-
rest of it or just not bother
Not
because,
bother because
Send
we
it
already had a
back.
mistake,
Okay,
but we need to
yeah.
send it back.
okay.
Okay,
So why don't you vote to send it back?
I'll accept a motion to send this back.
I
to
make
the
a
planning
motion, we send that one back.
Second. So it was, the
Discussion.
discrepancy was in 7 members and
Yeah, no, it's 7
There's
members and 5
Several
members,
places.
but it's several places appointed by the town council, but
Okay.
it doesn't state it that in the ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay, so, any further discussion? Cheryl, did you have anything? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So now, wait, I just want to make notes. So now we're doing the first hearing on chapter 38 zoning, and there are some in here too that are state, and there are some that are Forsters, but there are some that have some language that isn't correct. Is that?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't we start with, I'll open it up and chapter 38, section 38, one purpose of chapter.
That one just says, well, basically it's just fine as is, as written. We felt, the recommendation to add that in the instance of uncertainty in the construction or application of any section of the zoning chapter, the ordinance shall be construed in a manner that will further the implementation of and not be contrary to the goals and policies and applicable elements of the comprehensive plan as required by blah, blah, blah. And that one, is fine. It's just the purpose. It's pretty straightforward.
Did anybody have any questions on that? No,
No.
not yet, not
Not
yet.
yet.
I'll get you, Mrs. Rao. Okay, so then 38-2 is also definitions.
Okay, and there's the one issue with definitions is that further on in this section, Grant added some language pertaining to growth areas and targeted growth areas and or targeted growth centers, and this even has another term for it. And growth area is a planning term, and it doesn't appear in the definitions, but we feel it should be added into the definitions.
So would you
into-
like us to send it all
I,
back?
I think just send, well, definitions back certainly, because
Okay.
that we're gonna wanna add that to it. And I think, I can't remember if he actually, he also did something later on with HC2 zoning,
Mhm.
and he tried to flip it back to HC,
Where
which
is-
it was.
Where is that?
That's in a different section,
a
but
different-
but
further
it may actually appear. So it looks like what he did was a search and replace, and anywhere that we had HC2
Oh,
that
yeah.
just went into the comprehensive plan that was finalized in December 2023
Right.
says HC2,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and now he decided that he changed his mind and wants to take the 2 out, and that doesn't make sense to us.
Okay.
Right,
So-
and our growth area is a completely new term. We
It's
have
a new
no
term.
idea what the growth area is.
Exactly.
Okay.
got it.
Yes.
So
So that
you
should
would
be
like
in the
a
definitions.
motion for us to send back all the definitions
Yes, please.
to, I'll
Oh,
accept
hold
the
on,
That's
motion.
only on the section
Section
38-2.
Yeah.
I'll
Right.
make a motion to send section 38-2 definitions back to the planning board for clarification.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so then we're moving on to 38-36 enforcement chapter. And this is to cite the Rhode Island General Law 45-24-51, 1 through 8.
So I have a question for you, because there's a whole block of these, 3836 through 3899, which are all RIGL ones, and they're all fine. Like, we think.
Okay,
So,
So they're
So-
all within,
That
they're
whole chunk.
all, we have no choice.
We have no
Follow Rhode
choice.
So-
Island General.
so you
precisely.
can,
Okay,
Okay.
but and these are first hearings, so we're not voting on
Right.
these.
okay,
So
okay.
do we need to read them and,
no,
No.
okay,
thank you.
okay, thank you for that.
It's over an eighth of an inch.
38-38 public notice requirements.
Oop,
Did I skip something?
Yeah, no, did you say through
That's-
38-99?
That's all, that's Rhode Island general laws as well.
So now we,
38
That's all state law today.
63, 64,
we go to
65, 67,
Okay.
131, right?
Through 99.
Right,
99,
Okay,
the big chunk.
Great.
of them.
yeah, so 38-131 is,
The next.
these are
Right.
all
Next
state.
one, Yes.
Thank you. So does everyone understand that we're not going to be discussing it? It's state. We have no say in it. I'm
very
not going to get on my
straightforward.
soapbox and we'll go on to 38-131.
Okay, so 38-131 is division of town into an enumeration of zoning districts, basically. And this is the one where Grant decided to change HC2s into HC and.
And it talks about the
And he
designated
talks
growth
about
area.
designated growth
So
area.
you would like us to make a motion to send this one back?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to send section 38-131 division of town into enumeration back to the planning board for clarification.
Second.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
the next one mentions growth area also. Table
Well,
of uses.
yes, table of uses includes the growth areas. It also includes HC2.
So I'll make a motion to return section 38-191 table of uses back to the planning board for clarification.
Second.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
38 section 38-226 substandard lot of record.
That one looks easy.
Famous
You're
last
being
word.
facetious, right? So neither Susan and I were clear on whether this was actually approved by the planning board. It does say to achieve consistency with Rhode Island general laws, but there's some kind of quirky language that we just thought it needs further clarification.
I'll make a motion
It's-
to send section
you.
38-226.
Yeah.
Substandard lot of record back to the planning board for clarification.
Second.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, we're moving on to 38-227 merger of substandard lot of record.
This was one where the language is fine in the ordinance. His blurb doesn't really match the ordinance. It
So send
doesn't-
back.
I could read this aloud if I can just read you. It's short. It's just about
But it's
merging.
not what appears on the agenda.
It's
Does it
not what
just
appears
mention
on the
it?
agenda.
Then we
So we
Yeah.
can't hear it.
That's confusing.
I make
Okay.
a motion to
so-
send section 38
Okay.
227 merger of substandard lot of record back to the planning board for clarification.
Second.
Or certainly a
It's
better
not
summary.
necessarily clarification as it is what is being posted on the
It's
agenda.
what's posted on the agenda.
Okay.
The language itself is fine.
It's just that it wasn't
not-
It's
posted.
not, so if somebody only read the agenda, they'd be like,
But it wasn't.
That's
Do
how
you need a
weird.
different motion or is that okay? Because it
That's
wasn't
all right.
clear. It
That's
wasn't
right.
the-
It's not
It's
clear.
not clear.
on the
It's not
agenda.
clear anyway.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next one is section 38-228 lawfully existing or established buildings, structures, or land uses of land. Okay,
this one, this is not a general law one. I'm not sure if people want to hear it's not very long, but it's.
go
some-
right ahead.
There's some new
Thank you.
language that I think is kind of important.
Mhm.
I read it 4 times. So I was like, okay, yeah. So, well, he basically inserted, so 38-228 lawfully existing or established buildings, structures, or uses of land shall be amended to meet requirements set forth in RIGL. So A says nonconformance by lawful existence. A building, structure, or use of land is nonconforming if such building, structure, or use of land was lawfully, previously was new, was lawfully existing prior to July 7, 1967, or amendment that that rendered the building, structure, parcel of land, or use of land out of conformance.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, so if somebody has a property that previously was in conformance, now there's been something, is this saying they're not grandfathered in and like they gotta tear the structure down or they get?
Let me read the rest of this because
Okay.
it might clarify because
Okay.
I actually read this aloud to my husband and said, does this sound like what it sounds like? Because it's not clear. Okay, so after that, it says all lots, structures, or uses of land that are not lawfully established are not protected by this section. So, because it also talks about not only prior to, if it was existing prior to July 7, 1906, or some amendment that changed,
Yeah.
that made it
It's
non-lawful.
confusing. I think it needs to go
It's
back.
very
and be
confusing.
clarified.
I think
Okay.
it's too confusing and I hear a lot of double negatives in there that yes, and I.
Okay, but I want to read you the next part just to,
Okay.
Okay.
because it just gets better.
It gets better.
So retroactive lawful existence not protected. For the purposes of this chapter, the creation and or the use of a parcel of land for a particular use that was legal at the time the parcel of land was created and or so used, and this might have been in the old
Yes, this isn't
ordinance,
changed. This
shall
is
not
what-
serve to create the lawful establishment or lawful existence of any use that was not legal at the time of creation and or use of the land, regardless of subsequent changes in allowable legal uses. So it just says that he's saying to account for uses that were lawfully existing, but then it prior to the amendment of the zoning ordinance rather than adoption. So it changes the time frame from that July 1967 to if the zoning ordinance was changed or amended subsequent to that, then things don't get grandfathered.
Okay,
And
and
I-
I make a motion to send section 38-228 lawfully existing or established buildings, structures, or uses of land back to the planning board, and
Yeah.
that needs clarification.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think it needs.
I mean, if you're gonna be rewriting it or amending it,
Yeah.
Right.
make it clear, because
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
yeah.
very
I
confusing.
think it
double
needs simple
negatives, I
language.
can't.
That's very difficult to understand.
It is.
okay.
I got more here. I clipped them
But
all
thank you
together
for
for
reading the
some
whole
reason.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. No, I know. I was trying to wait for everybody to be done talking. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Cheryl. Moving on to 38-231, non-conforming by dimension.
I lost it. Where are we?
You
Oh,
want-
way up here. Wait, no, sorry, I'm on my page. Crazy. This one I think is fine. That's just consistent with Rhode Island general law.
Yeah.
It just talks about.
But again, this
Doesn't
talks
that-
about lawfully existing at the
Yeah,
time of
yeah.
adoption or amendment. It's 38-321, non-conforming, 231.
Mm.
Yeah, and it says non-conforming by dimension, and it states in the, right. In the posting, it says recommendation to amend this section to achieve consistency with Rhode Island General Law 45-24-32. But again, it talks about lawfully existing at the time of adoption or amendment of this
Mm.
chapter. It doesn't talk about,
So what I'm wondering is maybe that's actually the part of the, I didn't look up Rhode Island general law, but maybe Rhode Island general law specifies that it has to be at either adoption.
not yet,
or
Mrs.
amendment.
Rao, not yet. Oh, your driveway parking? No.
That's not the type of- If the lot sizes of properties, because I can't want to wait.
Mm.
So they want to.
We're gonna send it back.
We're sending it back,
Yeah.
Mrs. Rao.
Mm.
Right. They're not going to take your property, Mrs. Rao.
That's not smart. Point is that the people who want the house,
Mm.
They want to build a house.
Excuse me, Mrs. Ryder and Mr. Keefe, could you, thank you. Go ahead, Mrs. Rao.
That everybody was used to frontage of 350 feet,
Mm-hmm.
right?
300.
No, 350 or 325, and now they have made it smaller. So you can put many more houses on it.
I'm wondering.
But that's not in relation to this ordinance here. We will get to it.
Do it.
So
So,
we're gonna.
I'll make a motion. I am gonna make a motion that we send section 38-231, section 38-236, section 38-237, section 38-272, section 38-277, 38-286, section 38.
386.
I'm sorry, 386, I'm sorry, section 38-387, section 38-390, section 38-394. Section 38-395, section 38-467, section 38-468, section 38-469. And section 38-470, back to the planning board for clarification.
All of those though, because some of them are really straightforward.
Yeah.
It's,
There's-
it's. There's just so much. I mean, I think we can handle them on another agenda, just my
You
opinion.
need a second, right? I
Yes.
second.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so all the way
I don't-
through.
I don't want to be guessing.
I don't either want to be guessing.
Right.
It sounds like you rushed them through.
I believe so,
And-
my opinion.
okay, so
I'd rather have more clarification on those.
so there's been a motion to send that whole section back. Discussion.
All the way.
Some of
to-
them are self-explanatory.
Yeah, some of them are
Order
very
and
self-explanatory and
I
they're
think
they're
we should
just
listen
small
on
word
the hair
word
area.
changes.
Okay,
I really think you don't need to see all of these again. If it can I just like.
So
I'll
which
jump in.
one-
So I agree that send back
And a
two
motion on the
31.
floor.
there is a motion on the floor and we're having discussion. So what ones, Cheryl, you felt that some of them were self-explanatory?
What Hillary said, I haven't been able to look at them. I'm re-looking at them again, so I don't have.
Wouldn't you like more time to actually, or have the corrections or?
Well, if they're all
Th-
set and they're not gonna be corrected, if she feels that we can understand them and get through.
Some
I
of them,
agree through, certainly through 237. Any of the ones pertaining to non-conforming use are really confusing.
Which ones do you think are just word changes? So we're not guessing what Grant thinks.
Let's
Say
say that.
That's my problem.
The setback, 272 is pretty straightforward. It's just changing a word
Okay,
for,
yeah, I just set back.
okay, but I'm just gonna, these out of my way for a second. 272 is simple. 277 about the sewerage, that is just, that again is just complying with Rhode Island general law, like that is very straightforward. I mean, it looks complicated because there's a lot of strikeouts and additions, but it was just changing the language to match the state regulations. So there's nothing sneaky or tricky or confusing in it. It's just they've updated the
I
language.
don't think anybody
regarding-
thinks it's sneaky, Hillary.
No,
Yeah.
well, it's
No,
not that.
right.
No, I just think it's so much so fast and you know, with all the ones that
You would have
we,
come to the planning board meetings.
No.
yeah,
I could imagine.
yeah.
Um,
So you think that 277 is okay, Mark? You
Yeah,
think
well, if it's just complying with state law, then yes,
if
because,
that's all it is?
because you don't have really any,
Right,
Right.
it does say.
Recourse.
General Law 23-19.5.
Okay.
Right.
I'm just circling. the
if
ones that
anything,
you-
that actually clarifies a little bit. So believe it or not, when you're talking about septic systems, but. I think, 386. Again, that's strictly about, because last year, I guess it was, they changed, the terminology. So now the administrative officer can make decisions on land use. That's been already fixed in a bunch of other places. And that's all this is doing, is just explaining that the administrative officer makes the decisions on certain applications.
It doesn't
um,
cite state law. In this, what I'm seeing, do you have it?
I'm
I can, like I
looking.
said, I
Doesn't
can,
say that on his thing.
Yeah.
It does at the top, under his heading right here. Section 38-36, requirements and purpose of articles shall be amended to meet RIGL. He just didn't write that in his description, but he wrote it on the thing.
yeah, I'm not comfortable with that. I would still, I'm circling the ones that look like they're just in compliance with state law. But I'm just not totally comfortable with that one.
That one's just wording though, as I said, just wording to change to meet.
I'm not
stuff that's-
I'm not shooting the
okay.
messenger. You're doing a great
Thank you.
job. I just,
All right.
I don't want to vote on something that I'm not sure of.
And 38-387 is about a pre-application conference. Shall be amended to better organize pre-application conferences. Sounds like a weird thing. And this one again is per, even though it doesn't say RIGL, but it says per 45-24-48. A municipality is able to regulate pre-application conferences in any way, provided it meets the purposes of subsections A through D in the text above. And it's just talking about the requirements for pre-application conferences that may be, it's kind of at the administrative officer's decision to whether some need to be done before something's actually submitted.
So
So-
it's discretionary.
Discretionary, that's the
I'm
word.
not- I
I'm
don't know if
looking
I'm
for.
comfortable with that. I mean, could it be different for different applicants? I think it should, if we're gonna have a pre-application conference, it should be the same kind of thing for all applicants.
It's gonna be held, may be held during a public meeting. So,
Right, and it's kind of spelled out. It just says before submitting.
Planning board.
if I can say something, these are important to your town. I mean, you guys are all guessing. Grant's not here. It looks like
So
Teresa,
send
you're
back.
doing a good job, but I just don't think you guys can vote on this stuff if you're guessing yourselves, because you're the town council, right? You're supposed to know.
okay. So are we good with the 30, do you want to still send them all?
Well, there's a motion. There's a
Right,
motion
they're
on
all
the
there.
table and it's been
So, and it's
seconded.
all been seconded,
Yeah.
so. Any further discussion?
I'm just gonna see if there's any other ones. Yeah, the next one gets kind of confusing about.
Okay.
This one gets into accessory dwelling units,
Yeah.
which
All right,
still
so-
needs
okay,
more.
Yes.
I think we can spend a whole meeting on just that section.
So,
Yes.
Absolutely.
we have the motion, it's been seconded, all in favor? Opposed?
Okay, so how far did we?
We get to the first hearing on chapter 38 something.
So we are now going to have first hearing, chapter 38 zoning. I have a note, not updated, tabled.
38-395. That has also the designated growth areas. And/or designated growth center.
Is that the entire chapter 38?
38-395.
Are you raising your hand or are you stretching? Okay, 1 second.
I'm just confused. I wanna get clarification.
Okay, just
So
1
wait.
second. I need another folder. Okay. Yes, the corner lots were tabled previously. And it was going to be updated language and it has not been done yet, according to Susan.
Yeah.
So
That's 38,273.
Yeah,
Right.
we haven't got there yet.
they haven't.
What are
done
you
that
up on?
yet.
I thought,
That's where we are now.
Right.
okay,
Oh, we
So
finished, so
there-
so all the way
We've
through
sent all the-
470 is
Right.
tabled.
All
Right.
sent back.
Yeah, all of those.
And some of them you might not have to do anything to, but some of them you will.
Okay. I'm still
So-
keeping I have some together that say fine. So.
Yeah. So we are now on the first hearing for chapter 38 zoning. And I'll open up that public hearing. And the first one, section 38 dash,
Why is,
Can I make a comment on that other stuff before you move on?
we already voted, but go ahead.
It's a moot point, right? But that's my point, it's a moot point. Your attorney said that if the state law has the language in there, that preempts everything that we want to do. So
Right.
why are we tabling stuff and sending it back if the state law is already clear?
And I just said that when you go back and look, some of them you're not going to have to change the language.
Well, in
but
some of
them
these,
are.
some of these, they cite the general law. So why are we sending them back?
Well, the motion was made to include all of those.
I'm just asking for a
Right.
logical
The
explanation
motion-
as to why.
because sometimes when these amendments were written, it's kind of in the vein of it's not always exactly the precise wording that's in the Rhode Island general law. There are things that Grant has tweaked, in my opinion, like here and there, that makes it a little bit less clear. So I think it probably is a wise move to just go back and like sit down, because I haven't personally looked at the Rhode Island general laws that he's getting these from, so.
I just don't want to
And-
vote on something that might be ambiguous. I want to know exactly what I'm voting on.
Yes.
And if it says Rhode
It-
Island general law, then I want it to be exactly in accordance with Rhode Island general law.
Precisely. And
Yes.
that's kind of where, I mean, I'm really hopeful you guys are going to hire a new planner soon, because when Grant was in the room with us and we were having our meetings and he would explain these things and show us the general law where necessary, like it made a lot more sense.
Mhm.
And it's really hard to kind of
To
go
do
back
it
and,
remote.
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
haven't,
I
I haven't
agree.
experienced remote. I was in Germany. I was truly remote. So there you go.
Okay.
So-
One second, Mr. Keefe has something more to add. Mr. Keefe, I need you to go to,
So you look at section 38-277, sewage disposal. It says consistent with Rhode Island General Law 23-19.5, right? And then it says 250 Rhode Island CAR 150, 10-6. That's cited sections of the law. It's cited sections of the law.
I think what the issue is, the plan is not here. She doesn't know what Grant thinks. They're not planners, they're confused. So I think even though I said at the beginning, if it was clear to everyone, then yes, you can, Rhode Island law controls, but this is kind of like it's, he's not here. She's trying to interpret what he's written down. And so my thing is that you're making laws, like you're
Yes.
making ordinances or town laws. If it gets continued to one meeting, what's the difference to make sure you're right?
There's no,
I mean, it's one meeting.
right,
Right? I mean, your planner's not here, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm not a
We don't have a
planner.
planner, right?
Right, well, then it gets,
Well,
well, then I
we
think,
have a
listen,
consultant.
it's
We have
not the end of the world. I mean, I think these are important to your town. You need to have someone here that, you know, either is gonna relook at these, that's a town planner, and that has that ability to do that before the council votes on something that obviously they're unsure as I sit here. So my best advice is send them back. It's not a do or die situation. It don't have to be done for tomorrow.
No,
exactly.
it's just
I would
things
rather
get pushed
take.
back and pushed back and
Right.
pushed back.
Yeah, but.
And then we're talking about the same thing 6 years later.
But Philip, when you.
But it's
get-
better to have it pushed back than have it be wrong.
You get 90 things on one agenda too.
Right.
It's,
There's a-
and you don't want to just slam them through.
And-
You really want to be able to vet these things. And I'm not comfortable voting on something that I don't totally understand or that is contradictory with what's written, what's on the agenda and what's in state law. I'm not going to vote for that. That's just my
You
opinion.
should never put something through that you're unsure of as a council member.
Yes.
That's my best advice to any council that I've been a attorney for or my council in West Greenwich. We would never do this without a town planner being present.
okay, so,
Well,
Well, I mean, no, if they're just easy clarifications, but these, when she's unsure what he's thinking, you guys are unsure, why would you vote on that?
Why would we?
Right.
meets the.
But then he's tweaking the general law.
Yeah,
Not really
Not on
tweaking,
track.
but it's wordsmithing.
Right,
Wordsmithing
right, but he's wordsmithing the law, she's saying.
in a few
Could we
places.
have one?
He's not here to talk about it.
Can I just jump in really quick about, because like the next four, 273, 286, 356, and 389, as far as I could tell, these weren't even posted on the meeting documents for tonight. I pulled this out from my July planning board meeting.
It does, it,
What
we
was-
have it on the
You
agenda.
have it on the agenda, but the actual ordinances were not posted. You know how like if you go onto the
Oh.
website, they weren't posted. Grant didn't send them to me. I went looking I looked back in previous agendas because Susan said that we had, and I remembered talking about corner lots. So
All right.
these were not included in the documents posted on the planning department website.
So which one
For
do you?
tonight.
So
meeting.
that is section 38-273, section 286,
86.
38-356, section 38-389.
And back to the other one, specifically 38-356 residential compounds, we had already asked about having that sent back to the planning board because we never really finished that discussion and it got shoved through at the tail end and we were like, wait a minute, what did we just?
Okay.
Which one is that?
356 residential
Oh,
compounds.
yes, okay, yes, I have that back on planning board.
Yeah, send that
Right.
back, and that's already
So-
on our agenda for next week.
So the first one, the first hearing for chapter 38 zoning, that whole section, those four, I'll accept a motion to send back to,
I'll make a motion to send the first hearing, chapter 38 zoning, section 38-273, section 38-286, section 38-356, section 38-389 back to the planning board for clarification.
second. Okay, and Mrs. Rao,
That includes the one.
that includes what you were concerned about. We're not going to be talking about it tonight. They're sending it back to the planning board.
That's
So-
will be advertised when it comes back.
Right,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
I only have one question.
Can you come up, Mrs. Rao?
Yes,
State your name and address.
because I would like to know when all those things changed, because the people lived in this town for 50 years. And they have done the business for 50 years and suddenly we have new laws and they have not been publicly distributed.
The
So-
ordinances, they
Yeah.
are advertised in the Observer and they are on the website. Do you have a computer?
I have two computers. but
Okay,
I
so-
cannot use it because my fingers don't.
Okay, but if you get the Observer, Mrs. Rao,
But
it's
that is
listed in there.
That's not the point. I can read very well and I can understand very well too. My question is this. There was people who lived here were plain simple farmers and suddenly we followed the state law, the new state laws, who passed them for foster. Why did we get the state laws applied to foster so fast? Could you please answer that, sir?
What's that? Why are the state,
Why-
why weren't the state laws applied to Forster?
Yeah.
Because over the years, the ordinances didn't get changed till now.
Okay, so that's a problem, because the people who lived here for so long,
Yeah.
suddenly they cannot afford to live here. And they cannot divide their land anymore either because of the frontages. You see, when you suddenly have 350 feet frontage and it goes to 225, so that they can build
Right. Well,
buildings, you know, for poor people who come here and have children, they have to go to school and all that stuff.
Right.
So that is where the big problem is in there.
we understand, Mrs. Rao. We're trying to fix that and we're plugging through, okay?
Well-
So keep coming to our meetings and
And I
get
come
the
to
Observer.
planning board- I will come to the planning board too, because this is a big problem which has not even started yet.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Rao. Okay, so now we're moving on to a second hearing. For, Yes. And- wait 1 second, I have it. I thought we did vote on it to send it back.
Can we just know that there's no remote participation, people are starting their hands?
There is no remote participation.
Right.
Thank you.
Do you want us to
So-
vote again, just in case? Because I don't remember. We started talking more about it and Mark.
Joe
And
second.
seconds,
Yeah.
and I go, okay, so,
Yeah.
no, 3-9. So, okay, so, and okay.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, moving on.
Well,
Second
that's-
hearing, so we may vote on this. It's chapter 12, businesses. And it states for section 12-49, license for other businesses.
Okay.
Go ahead, Hillary.
And basically that says the initial license fee for businesses as defined in Rhode Island general laws, blah, 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 not specifically listed under Article 2 of this chapter shall be $100, which is the same as the license for everyone else, and shall be renewed annually by the town council. The renewal fee shall be 100. It says it twice, but basically that covers businesses. There are the previous list of businesses, there are some that don't fall into any category. So this is the other category. If it's a legitimate business,
Mhm.
then this is just saying that it would
They'll
be
pay
licensed the same
$100.
as everyone else.
Right, same as everybody else.
So that was pretty straightforward.
So anyone have any questions on that? Okay, hearing none, I'll do my 3. Anyone who wants to speak in opposition to this ordinance, anyone that wants to speak in opposition to this ordinance? You want to speak in opposition to it, Mrs. Rao?
I just want to tell you, that's it. This license applies to hotels and hotels are.
There's a special
This is,
one.
this is a special one.
There's a special one for me, for hotels. That was.
There is one, we had discussed that
Yeah.
before, you were here, Mrs. Rao, when we discussed it. This is for those businesses that do not fall under any of those other categories.
We don't know what businesses, do they clarify that?
If it's not listed on that, there's a very extensive list of what businesses have to apply for licenses. If they're not listed there, then they fall under this and they have to pay $100. Yes.
That also under the $100.
That's,
It's
no,
regulated by the
that's under a
state.
separate category and that has a much higher fee, I believe. I think.
It's regulated by the state.
Yes. What?
The other schedules.
Where's
The
the
compassion center, regulated by the
Yeah,
state.
That's in that same section, it's still gonna be in, 12 dash. Actually, which one is it? It's somewhere between 1249 and 1265. So we're somewhere, and it exists, I've seen.
It does.
I just don't have it here.
It does exist, Mrs.
That's
Rao.
Separate, yeah, this $100 is not for marijuana or cannabis dispensaries. And then.
We
Are you
have
done
to
with that?
vote. No, we're
Sorry.
not. So I'm closing that public hearing. Anyone who wants to speak in favor of this? Anyone who wants to speak in favor of it? Anyone who wants to speak in favor of it? So the public hearing is now closed. I open it up to the council. What is the pleasure of the council? We're talking about chapter 12 businesses, article 2 licenses, section 12-49 license for other business. Make
So
the
this is
motion.
outside of hawkers and peddlers, they,
Right.
and their own, and they're 50,
They're in
right?
there.
Yeah.
50, and so they're. Yeah,
These-
they're in their
already in the
own,
list.
They already
Yeah.
have the
in
list.
their own section.
Right.
Yes.
Yes,
I know, I'm trying to come up with an example.
I know, I
you know,
couldn't think of one either.
And we said it's not babysitters. We
Right.
said that.
Right.
Say it was a laundromat. Okay, then they would have.
Because we don't have anything
Because
like
we
that.
don't have.
Having
that
a-
much.
Right,
Right.
We couldn't list
Okay.
everything, so.
Yeah.
it makes
Right.
sense.
I
Right,
make a
does, right.
motion to accept
The amendment.
section, chapter 12 businesses, section 12-49 license for other businesses.
Second,
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, so then the next one is third hearing. And it's in regards to chapter 16 manufactured homes. And we had voted to table that until we could meet with the planning board and the council
Right,
as a
so we're
whole.
gonna Table it again.
Again, I've reached out to Mr. Renzi. I have not heard a reply. So that is,
My turn to reach
Table.
out to him. Oh my God, like,
so that one is continued to table. Chapter, the third hearing, chapter 18 nuisances was also voted to table to a joint meeting with the council and the planning board. And again, I have not heard back. So that ends our public hearings. I can't wait to tell Julia how fast it went.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So, the manufactured home and the nuisances were going to.
We had voted before to table them until there was a joint meeting between the planning board and the council. And I have emailed the planner and Mr. Renzi, and now I've included Hillary, asking for a time to meet, and I have not heard a response yet, except for from Hillary. We've tabled them. We haven't sent them back. We tabled, we said we wanted to meet. Okay, so now I still have three, so I can continue. So we have the next thing. Excuse me. We are now under new business. Where's old business? There was no old business. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, there you go. So new business, we have the bid award for the heating oil, and you have that in front of you. And it has been recommended by the department head that we go with Rambo and Spray. What is the pleasure of the council?
I make a motion that we go with Rambone and Sprague.
Second.
With the cost, well, now
was-
there's option 1 and option 2. It doesn't say which option he would like to go with.
Well,
Option
option 1
one,
locks it right in until June
Okay.
30th. I think that makes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you want to lock it,
Yeah.
okay.
I would lock
So
it.
I would like the motion, I'm sorry, could we just have one conversation at a time? Thank you. One second, we haven't got the motion down yet.
I make
So-
a motion to recommend Rambone and Sprague for option number 1, $2.74, 749 gallon, if lock-in price until June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Discussion. Chief,
I just had a quick question.
you have to come up and just state, you don't have to give your address, just state your name. There you go.
You know,
It's
Linda,
out.
I just have a question. For the heating oil, would you go out for bid for that? Would you?
We did.
It was, it did go out. to
But I didn't hear the beginning. You said Rambo, who were the two others?
There was only one other,
Riker and Sons.
There was just-
Riker and Son.
What was the other one? Oh,
Riker and Sons.
Okay, and you you got the lowest bidder?
Yeah.
Okay.
We went,
I didn't
with
even hear
the
that.
recommendation of the department head, DPW, Mr.
Why don't you say what the other bid was for the people?
The other bid was from Reichert and Sons for the amount of $2.79 per gallon if lock-in price until June 30th, 2025. So it is a cheaper price. Rambone and Sprague were a cheaper price. So the motion was made and seconded by Mr. Stone. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. You have in your packet a resignation from Mr. Renzi from the Police Building Committee. I'll read it.
Can't open mine for some.
It says, "Dear Mrs. Dillon, I was asked by the Honorable Town Council President, Mrs. DeFranco, that I should resign from the Police Building Committee. So here's my resignation. I'm done. I quit. I resign. Thank you, Anthony J. Renzi." I did request Mr. Renzi, I didn't request he resigned. I pointed out to him that at the last council, Police Building Committee meeting he attended, he had left saying, "I quit, I resign." I asked him to send it in writing. That was quite a while ago. Mr. Renzi isn't always in attendance. So what is the pleasure of the council?
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Anthony Renzi from the Police Station Building Committee.
Second.
Discussion? We'll say with regrets.
Well, I will.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So then next you have the appointment of Mr. Greg Smalley to the Police Building Committee. And he also sent a letter, an email to Mrs. Dillon upon the request of Mr. Brayton. Gordon Brayton advised me to write to you expressing my interest in being named to the building committee for the new police station. Please let me know if you need any additional information. Cheers, Greg. He has, I will state, he has attended a few of the, just recently, a few of the police building committee meetings and has been very valuable in the information that he's.
Very knowledgeable.
Yes, I would make a motion to to appoint Greg Smalley to the police building committee. Is there a second?
Second.
I don't know, I never met the
I
man
don't-
before, but boy, is he.
Yeah, for discussion, I would say I don't know who he is, but if this is the building committee's recommendation.
Mhm.
And he's been to them,
They're the
I
ones
mean,
gonna work with them.
right, we don't have a formal recommendation, but Gordy is comfortable with
Yeah.
him and asked him to,
Yeah.
so. I
Actually, Joe
would
Walsh
go-
did the.
I
Yeah.
would vote in favor of him based on Gordy's recommendation or the committee's recommendation.
What?
Isn't he an architect?
He's an architect, he has his own business, he's
Yeah.
very,
Very
very
knowledgeable.
knowledgeable.
Yeah.
He's been. Mrs. Rao,
Something to say about the building, police building, which is being built over there. This area was filled in, so be careful.
Yes.
There are things in there,
yeah,
basement or not.
right,
Or
thank
they
you.
do it, Put other stuff in there, otherwise you have water.
We're going to the, I don't know, north, south, east, west. We're going to the, guess it is the west of it. So yes, we know where that is. We're quite aware of that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Moving on, this is gonna go quickly too. So the transfer of the land, there was some confusion on what was necessary, so we're going to table that. I would request a motion to table this to the September 26th meeting.
I'll make a motion to table transfer of land for police building to September 22nd. Is it 22nd?
26th.
26.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next is the proclamation, awarding of design build services. So I had done this agenda Thursday before we had our police building committee meeting and put that on there. The police building committee has reviewed the architects that have submitted, and I believe they're in.
They
your
were
sugar
in
thing.
there, yes.
There are still a few questions that we have for the various
I
committees.
did. I looked at both of them and one had a complete date that was in October 2025. And the other one, I mean, how many pages? They were 40 pages long or something,
Yeah,
but I was looking for a completion.
yeah. So
date,
there's some
and
things that we
I
have.
didn't see it,
Yeah.
so I was a little confused
Yeah.
about that. even
So we
though-
have a few that questions that we have that
Yeah.
we're going to send out to them. So again, September 26th. Mark it in your calendars. We're gonna have a big party.
I'll make a motion to continue, and we said table, then that.
Table, yeah. Or,
It should have
move
been
it.
table and it should have been continuing. Awarding of the design build services of the police station RFQ to the September 26th meeting.
Second.
discussion. Mrs. Ryder.
Lynn Ryder, Burgess Road. Those two items are so incredibly important and time sensitive. Wouldn't it make sense if you can possibly have a special meeting before
We're
then?
having the police building committee is having 2 more meetings so that we can have it on the September 26th. There's a special meeting Tuesday, the 17th,
Whatever
this Tuesday, and then there's one the following Monday. So, okay. Moving on, proclamation, Moosup Valley Junior Grange, number 27. Ms. Horace, since you were a member at one point, would you like to read the proclamation?
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Town of Worcester proclamation of Moosup Valley Junior Grange number 27th, 80th anniversary. Whereas the Moosup Valley Junior Grange number 27 was organized in May of 1944, being the 27th in the state to be organized. Whereas the Moosup Valley Junior Grange number 27 is sponsored by the subordinate Grange, Moosup Valley number 26, which was organized in the 1890s. Whereas the Junior Grange provides an opportunity for children to develop self-confidence, leadership skills while fostering the traits of accountability and respect for self and others. Whereas the Junior Grange also encourages honor, patriotism, and understanding of agricultural and opportunity to improve the communities where the children live and play. Whereas the Moosup Valley Junior Grange number 27 assists with community service projects such as the Valley Cleanup at the Moosup Valley Congregational UCC and Tyler Free Public Library. Whereas the Moosup Valley Junior Grange number 27 plant a flower bed bee garden on the property of the Grange and host a fishing day at the Green Acres. Whereas the Moosup Valley Juniors Grange number 27 have continued the community service projects to include raising money for juvenile diabetes and 5,000 for Project Amelia. Now therefore be it resolved that the Forster Town Council do hereby proclaim that September 21st, 2024 be designated as Moosup Valley Junior Grange number 27 Day, and urge all citizens to participate in observance of this historic event in honor of those who have served in the Grange over the last 80 years. Dated this 12th of September, 2024. Denise DeFranco, Town Council President, and Susan Dillon, Town Clerk. Can I just say?
Sure.
They do a lot more than that even. But they have won awards to travel competitions, and they're very deserving of a proclamation. They're a bunch of people that work with them that really, really. You can't hear me? I'm not on?
No, you are.
You're
No,
good.
no.
You're good.
Oh, I'm just very happy to see this. I think they deserve it, and thank you.
And they're having a celebration, which they invited the council to, on the 21st at, which is next Saturday,
Yes.
at 10 a.m. at the Grange. And they invited, if I may keep this, I'll present it to them at that time. And then I also have, to be included in that, Mr. and Mrs. Paul Rush, Paul and Barbara Rush, they've been 55 years.
Yeah.
They've been involved
Yeah.
with the juniors.
I think they
Grange.
were involved when I was a kid there.
Yeah, well, the gentleman who reached out to me said that they were involved when he was. So we have a certificate of appreciation that I would like to present to them at that time. So at this time, I would accept a motion for the proclamation and the two
Okay, I make a motion that the proclamation and the two
certificates of appreciation.
of appreciation be presented by Denise DeFranco on September 21st at the is it a
It's
ceremony?
going to be, yeah, at the Moosup Valley
Ceremony at Moosup Valley Grange.
Second.
Grange. Discussion? No, you didn't have it. Okay,
I was gonna say something else.
go ahead.
Well, after after that is done, there's a concert in the valley right there at the church, and the kids help clean up and do things for that as well. And it goes on from 12 to 5, and it's really a nice event.
I must say.
It is, and the grounds are great over there.
Yeah.
It is a really nice.
I must say, I'm not at all familiar with the Grange. I know
No.
that they, and the gentleman sent me information
You
that,
should go to, they have roast beef dinner.
yes, I know, and I'm always not available,
Yeah.
but I always hear they're good.
It's for a good cause, Cheryl.
But that I hear,
I'm gone, but I give them money if I don't go.
but you wouldn't believe the things that these kids
Sure.
do. Oh my gosh, it was
Mm.
amazing. So,
It is.
Call the vote.
thank you. Is there, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. MCM Holdings LLC Cell Tower letter request to state preservation. Kelly,
Julia said you were familiar with this.
That's what she told me.
Yep.
Okay.
They're looking, they're looking for a letter from us, and Julia had said that it would be very similar to what was written, I
It
guess,
looks-
in August of 2024.
For the police station.
What's the center?
Go out to center. It was
Replaces,
in Sugar
replaces
Center,
the
though.
one that was there.
Kelly, do you want to see the?
I have the letter.
Okay,
I don't
So-
even remember having a conversation about this. I'm not gonna lie.
let me,
So, but I,
We've been talking about this for a
We
long
have.
time, haven't we?
once. I guess the
No.
state preservation. One second. I'm sorry, I'm trying to go through to my emails.
It's.
okay.
It is in Sugar Sink, but Julie had told me that. Okay, here's. Nope, that's the wrong one.
in regards with getting approval for the tower from the
No,
reservation,
she said that you were familiar with it, Kelly.
I'm familiar with the tower, but I don't know in reference to
Okay.
this specific topic.
1 second. I'm sorry.
No, it's in Sugar Sink.
It is in Sugar Sink. There are 3 letters. One is dated August 29th, 2024. One is dated November 26th, 2002, and one is dated September 12th, 2001.
You want me to
If I-
talk, do you want me to talk about it?
Yes. thank
Okay.
you.
So essentially what's going on is the the State Historic Preservation Commission with Jeffrey Emedy. This is an August 29th, 2024 letter. He's indicating that they do not have any objection to moving the tower, that he understands that there are dead zones in Foster because it's such a rural community and you have the highest peak
Pest control, yeah.
in a state. So, and he attaches the other 2 letters. One is from Ed Sanderson, who was the longtime executive director of the State Historical Preservation Officer back then. He was in agreement with that. And then back in the day, 2000, ironically, September 12th of 2001. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
isn't that something?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And the day after September 11th too, right?
Mhm.
But Jonathan Reiner, your town planner then, was also in agreement with,
I know. That's what-
And back in 2001. I didn't either.
No, I saw that. And I was still confused. What the hell was that in that letter?
I don't remember that name. Do you? When you would remember, right? I don't.
So,
I was
Yep.
like,
so anyway, what they're saying is that there is no objection. He's citing these other 2 letters to where the cell tower needs to go in the town is what he's essentially saying.
So they're looking for a letter from us stating that we're fine with it being and that we agree that it needs to be done. And Julia would write up that letter for us. So I would need a motion to grant Julia the permission to write a letter to the state preservation, very similar to what the August 29th, 2024 letter,
And for you to sign it.
and for me to sign.
so moved.
Second.
Did you get that, Mrs.
Hmm.
Dillon? Okay, discussion?
Just say, turn the microphone on, sorry.
I got confused. The letter's going. Who doesn't, have the objection? Is it they don't have the objection or you don't have the objection?
We,
Neither one of us.
neither one of them, but they just want a letter from us saying that we
you
don't have an objection.
And you have a letter from
Right,
them that was read that saying they didn't have any objection.
right. Okay. Okay. Any other questions, just concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next, oh, Mr. Georgie, you're here.
Yeah.
Would you like to?
Yeah, well, we just wanted to send a letter so that as your election season's coming on, that we're moving away from municipal type law with the towns we've had in the past. And right now it's just Foster and the Central Coventry Fire District, and we've notified them as well. So we just wanted to give you ample opportunity moving forward that whoever the new council is going to be, that, you know, we're gonna be leaving at whatever the last meeting is for this council.
December 12th.
Yes. December 12th. What's the pleasure of the council?
Well, it's not really
No.
it's not a resignation.
Yeah, right.
It's just,
I don't know.
No,
I don't even know that we
I
need a
didn't think
motion.
we did.
I mean, the issue is like, we have 9 lawyers, but the only 2 that are willing to do this is Julia and I. And Julia was away tonight, and if I had something else to do, it didn't matter because no one else in my office will do it. And I guess I could force someone to come, but they really don't know this type of law. So it's to the point where it's just not sometimes feasible if her and I, and sometimes these meetings, Central Coventry Fire, and this meeting is on the same night. And we're both somewhere, and if one of us can't be there, then we're scrambling to have someone, usually them, change. It's easy for them to change a meeting. So it just got to the point where that's one of the issues as well.
Well, thank
So-
you for serving us.
they're-
for-
Both parties
Yes, thanks,
represented
service.
here,
Yeah.
so they're aware.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moving on to executive session.
Okay. I make a motion, I move to go into executive closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5 for the discussion of personnel according to Rhode Island General Laws -42-46-5A1, and for discussion or work sessions regarding collective bargaining, contract negotiations or litigation according to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A2, and to reconvene in open session, and further to keep the minutes of said meeting closed and the minutes of all executive sessions held previous to this meeting be closed and remain to the provisions of the general laws of Rhode Island 42-46-4 and 5.
Second.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We'll take a brief. Yeah, might as well leave it.